causes sadness to the immediate family, and what you asked, the people being criticizing the event is sad. It's not the right thing to do. Nobody should take blame. Should all be concerned that we should fight such criminality to ensure that we have a peaceful country. Nobody gains from it. Whether you criticize it, you don't gain anything. And any politician who would want to take advantage of a death would surely be unserious.
But it is not surprising that, because if someone has died being shot at, that's bound to happen in any country.
Well,
remember South Africa when they had all those murders and so on. I think it would happen.
Not necessarily it has to be politicized really, but people are free to show their anger, but to make it political is different from being angry. Being angry is natural upon a death, moreover in such a gruesome manner.
Maybe even.
But for somebody to try to take a political advantage of it, as if government is not doing anything to stop or to fight criminality, and in view of what this NRM's record on fighting criminality is, where the country has been generally pacified from many forms of criminality, of the ADF murders, of LRA coin murders, and so on and so forth, the Karamojong rustlers who are killing people on the roads and so forth. You know, 10, 15 years ago, it was very risky to travel from, say, Kampala to Karamoja, especially when you reached the Karamoja areas. You find people on the road with guns, and you never know whether they would aim at you or not. Sometimes they would aim at you, an innocent person, but all that has ended. So even this form of criminality in the city will also be ended, like the President mentioned in his speech.
Actually being opportunistic, because you see when we were having the barrier of Chiromira on Sunday, all these opposition MPs grabbed the microphones, 3, 4, and they were shouting. But the next time we were burying in Alinya, they were not there. So why did they have to choose when they were all gunned down? So really, we need to style up, and it was very shabby. Let's deal with this of security and the losses as a country, as nationals, and let's not look like we are choosing where to jump on. This politicking and being opportunistic is not good for the country.
You don't think they take it as an opportunity?
I mean, it was just to Saturday and Sunday, and it was all. I was very, very embarrassed as a politician myself. We should not grab such. They hijacked the family function. When people die and they are burying, it's an issue about family and the religious leaders to take. How do you go and overtake a funeral and shout and you take over the funeral? Then the next day you don't appear. If they are sad about murder, then why did they also go for Nalinya's burial and do the same? This is being opportunistic, and it's unfortunate because they don't make politicians look, really callous, and we should be bigger than this.
Fred?
Yes, a very sad week indeed. Mine actually is a double credit Oscar, because, but first of all, my condolences to the families of those who lost their loved ones. In Rujumbura, Bugangari sub-county, on Thursday morning, a body was discovered of a very young lady, young girl. Yeah, you saw it on Facebook.
In the press, yes.
Gruesome. The murder, similar to the murders we have seen, across Wakiso in recent times. There is worry. There is panic even now school girls are not going to school. So while yes, we say we should not politicize this, but there are questions that must be answered. I'm not objecting to the President's second or third speech about security. He can bring in as many as possible. But the population is really asking, where are we going? So even when it is security, it is still a political question. People want to hear from the President measures that are being put in place to make sure the country is secure. So, disarming the Karamojong, yes, but people are dying. Losing another life is just too much for the country, Oscar. So we need to get answers to these questions. Our people cannot continue dying, and then we continue getting stories.
Yes, and the thing about Lydia saying, why do opposition politicians grab these? She says you're opportunistic, going to one barrier, not going to the other, and then taking.
I don't know how she would stop it, because it's about emotions. I mean, the country has lost, people have lost loved ones, and this is an opportunity to express anger and ask questions. So what's wrong with that?
And
there's everything wrong, because they even segregate you.
I mean, things are going wrong in the country. So what's wrong with asking questions? The microphone is there, you are a politician.
You have forums that you ask questions.
That is one of them.
No.
That is there?
Yeah.
Is there any order of
Yes.
barriers where people are and are expressing emotions? You must ask these questions, and they need to be answered. I think that's why the president is coming back on Saturday. There is no opportunism here. Yeah.
And the fact that there have been so many murders or assassinations, that's also a big thing. It's the feeling of insecurity, and you will have people venting.
I mean, it's natural, Oscar. It's natural. There is no opportunism here. People have lost loved ones. There is insecurity in the country. There are questions to be answered. So if someone picks a microphone and puts a question, why should that be opportunism? Let the questions be answered, and then the opportunism will stop. Yeah.
Okay,
If you go organizing stones and throwing at a funeral, that is opportunism.
Gerald Karahanga coming into.
But Oscar, this grey hair on Gerald's hair, what is it?
What's wrong with you and my grey hair? Yes, I'm glad to be here. It's always a pleasure, Oscar, to come and share very interesting issues with Ugandans.
And as you came into the studio, Fred was responding to Lydia, who said opposition politicians were an embarrassment at Kirumina's funeral because they grabbed opportunities and blamed
They grabbed the
government
microphones, and then the one of Nalinya did not appear. So what is it? Because they were all gunned down.
You know, some of these issues, we ought to be very cautious when we are addressing them. Sometimes people are exceedingly at a point of discomfort, but also they're angry. And because people are angry, you ought to understand the circumstances. So when people have so many unanswered questions, why Chiromera? Why Kagezi? Why so many other individuals dying and we have no explanations? And in such a situation, you ought to understand when people really come out and express themselves in a way that sometimes is not usual. So instead of downplaying or dismissing the sentiments and the concerns of the people who may have been involved, you ought to go to the bottom line, the root cause. Where is this coming from? Why are they this angry? How did we arrive here? So when you have a mountain of unanswered questions building day in, day out, 1 month, 2 months, 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, then you can't just come and say, oh, these people are horrible. No, what's more horrible than having people dying and the state is not explaining it? That for me, I think, is much more horrible.
What explanation would you want, Mr. Karahanga?
The explanation is, who is killing these people? Who is doing their work?
That's work of investigation.
You can't investigate forever and ever. We've had investigations.
Haven't you had people being arrested and being arraigned in court?
Show me one case where we have had a successful prosecution in all these killings.
Does the government make judgments?
It doesn't. Well, I want. To
You're a lawyer. You know very well when a
It's
case is
obvious
in
that
when a
it's-
case is in
it's very
court.
obvious.
When a case is in court, you leave it for the court process to end.
Yeah, yeah. You see, if it was one or two
Yeah.
cases,
Mhm.
yeah, that probably would say, okay, maybe they're still going on, but it's a case after case after case,
Yeah. But
and in all these instances,
in our judicial system, how many? How we should address that? How many? How long do cases take?
by the way,
No, you want government now. You are in Parliament. Go and legislate and say a murder case should be heard in 2 weeks. Beyond that, go
no,
beyond
that's
it.
not going to escapism because you
Yes.
see,
Because like last Sunday, the president explained that apart from the case where he said no suspects have been arrested yet, we know all these cases. Suspects have been arrested. Good information has been obtained.
Suspects have been arrested.
Yes.
In
and
Chigundu's case, suspects are arrested.
he
In the
explained,
Kagezi
yes.
case.
He said only the Kagezi case where the people have not been arrested. But all these cases, the suspects have been arrested, and the matter is now within the judicial system of Uganda.
The suspect, I'm not aware of anyone being charged for the murder of
In
Chigundu.
fact, he even asked the Inspector General of Police to come and explain to the
He
public
should really,
how far they have gone.
With
Because for him,
charge.
they have briefed him as the president. They should also brief the public.
They choose to hear what they want to hear.
Oscar,
No,
the fact that we are not aware,
No.
perhaps is a weak communication.
Indeed.
But the truth is,
and also
no.
because if
But-
people
but-
are charged, if people are in prison,
But
they
the
must be brought to
no,
court.
no.
I don't know how many
No, no,
hours
no.
you're giving. We
No,
have
no,
no
no.
idea.
But Oscar, but the
And
truth
then I
is,
would know.
in all the high-profile publicity cases of murder, only one case, the one of Joan Kagezi, is where police and prosecution have no suspect at all. In all the others, there are suspects before court. In fact, in the Muslim sheikhs, Chigundu, there have been some conviction
Yes.
made. Yes. So please, Gerard was talking about only yesterday.
We are on his
The,
time.
yes, only yesterday.
They are giving him
yes,
information.
only
That's
yesterday.
true.
Only
they
yesterday.
are just trying to be defensive.
Only yesterday.
Yeah.
The International Criminal Court at the Hague dropped 2 charges on a former minister for youth affairs in Togo. And remember, all about 2 months ago, they again dropped other charges against Bemba. And remember, they dropped charges against Uhuru Kenyatta and so on. Now, these are high-profile investigations with better facilities. So, the fact that the case is not ending shouldn't be an issue. The issue should be,
Are they in court?
are they before
I
court?
agree with
No, no, but
No,
the
no,
question
no,
the Gerald
see.
was raising is
Yeah.
different.
You were asking for
How long does
You
the
see,
legislation
now
take in Parliament?
There will be another
One-
press
one-
briefing this evening. So if
How
you
long
have
does the
information, tune
legislation
in.
take in Parliament? Gerard?
So
You know,
we-
the press briefings are going to be many.
Yeah.
Like we've seen.
Try to get information.
How we should, they were informative. They didn't inform.
You don't want to watch.
Yeah, well, sometimes you ought to spend your time in a more useful manner. You know, yes, trying to restrict us and incarcerating us. Now, let me stop distracting. Well, don't mind about my accusation number. The concern here is that we politic as a country, I think, sometimes too much.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was saying.
We ought to
The
have
Peter is not a politician.
some line where we say, this is not politics.
Mm-hmm.
If we are talking about the lives of Ugandans being lost at assassinations, at murders, at unexplained killings, then we must really agree and say this is not an issue of politics. It is an issue where Ugandans demand, and I'm very certain that even if it was another government, assuming us who are opposed to this government were in power, I'm very sure that Ofuono Pondo, you would be asking these same questions.
Right.
And saying, look, why are you not telling us what's going on? because this is not. Wait, listen. This is not.
You say
this is not
satisfactory, but we can't say.
Oh, I've just switched off your phone for it. Let him finish.
Yeah, you see, if it was a few isolated cases, then we would say, okay, maybe the state is trying, maybe something is, but when it keeps going on for a lengthy period of time, then you ought to sit down. And by the way, when we raise this, it's not we are not just being critical. No, we are only reminding you, the security apparatus, that Ugandans are dissatisfied with your work. The intelligence systems. Now sit down, think through, analyze. People are insecure, and therefore, I mean, the other day some people will dismiss us in Parliament and say, "Oh, I think you people, it's the way you talk that is putting you under threat." Now, as I speak today in Parliament, it appears the threat to the ruling party members is almost the same threat that the opposition are also seeing. In fact, in some quarters, it could even be more on the other side. So that's why I think here, on an issue like this, even in our own discussion here, we ought to begin looking for the real causes of this. Where have we come from? Why is it that in the past, especially 20 years, let's say maybe between 86 and 2006, we didn't see more of these killings?
We had more.
No, okay, maybe let's talk about, let's leave around the first 10 years.
Please,
let's talk about from, let's say, 96, maybe 2006.
You are young.
No.
Because from 86 up to 2005, when Kony was finally defeated,
you see again now
we have more deaths.
You see, now we are mixing issues again.
Now. It's about security. You're about security.
No. You see,
talking about assassination.
We are talking about assassinations.
Well, what is assassination? When somebody would come in a home and hack everybody, burning.
Okay, if you want us to discuss that, we can also address the wars. The wars have been many. So, in this particular case,
that better?
I want to think Oscar was directing us discussing the recent ongoing killings.
You took us into history by saying why now and not. This one is as if it is out of hand. We have had the worst situation.
Last year we had 26 women dead in the Entebbe area. The year before in Bwebaja we had people coming in with pangas, hacking.
We had the ADF assassinations in Kampala here were much more than what you are seeing today.
Yes.
And they killed more people.
They did, yes.
And
when the ADF killings were taking place,
we had one evening on the 9th October. One evening on 9th October 1995, 159 school girls, Aboke, St. Mary's,
you see, now
taken away. Now,
you see, that's where now you are taking us. And that's where President Museveni was leading us, and some of us think he's just being destructive. Because if we are asking about the recent killings, come on, and I can see it vividly right here. We can talk about the wars and probably we'll have another discussion and talk about them. But now we are talking about the recent killings. Now we are saying, what happened? Let's question ourselves and do it more soberly. Could it be because maybe the investigative security agencies relaxed? Could it be because they are less facilitated? Could it be because they were politicized and focused more on politics, on surveilling Dr. Besigye, Kwago, Bobby Wines, and so what happened? So we want to soberly, and for me, and that's why how I wish I could really persuade you that we look at this more in that direction, as opposed to coming here and say, oh, government is all is fine, all is safe, and giving a wrong impression.
The direction you're talking about